It's Halloween party season again. A man shows up in a full Nazi uniform. The bar won't let him in. People start shouting at him. Some curse him off. Some shove him.
Don't touch him.
Fuck you! What the fuck?
And there's even someone who walks up to praise his bravery, as if intimidation requires courage. Tension spikes, and before you know it, fists are flying.
This is terrible. Is this serious?
Oh my god!
No, I have no idea. We're seeing you on the second. No.
Today, we are not just asking, can we dress as a Nazi for Halloween? We will map the legal line, repulsive yet legal versus illegal, and the social line, why some symbols easily detonate a room. And we will also note the double standard, Nazi uniforms poured, Mao usually tolerated. And I will give you some practical safe steps. So please stay. This episode is not a rant, it's a manual. First, is it okay to dress as a Nazi for Halloween? In Europe, some countries are absolute zero tolerance on Nazi symbols. The strictest are Germany and Austria. In Germany, Criminal Code Section 86A bans swastikas, SS badges, and the Hitler salute. Basically, no exceptions. In Austria, it's just as tough. Simply wearing it can count as criminal act. In both countries, films must apply for special permission to show these symbols. Then you have places like France, Italy, Hungary, Poland, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic, where the law also bans glorifying Nazism, denying the Holocaust, or displaying Nazi and other totalitarian symbols. And it doesn't matter if you call it a performance or just cosplay, it can still be illegal. But this incident particularly happens in the United States. Here, the First Amendment protects hateful and offensive symbols as long as you are not making threats, inciting violence, or committing a crime. Which means no U.S. state explicitly bans Nazi uniforms and Nazi symbols. Wearing it by itself is usually not illegal. However, the bar is a private establishment. You get to exercise your First Amendment, and the bar gets to exercise theirs. They can refuse entry to anyone who makes other customers feel threatened, offended, or likely to cause a scene. So, legally speaking, throwing him out is perfectly fine. That was the legal part. Now, we get into the social bottom line. Some people say, come on, it's Halloween. Aren't we just dressing up as monsters for fun? Why make a fuss? But a Halloween party or any cosplay party comes with an unspoken social contract. We are here to play inside a harmless sandbox. So you can be a villain, a killer, a pirate, because those are fictional or literary evils. What we are not doing is turning real-world atrocities into costumes. A Nazi uniform carries real blood, not movie blood. The moment he walked in wearing it, he didn't bring a character. He threw an unhealed piece of history into a space meant for harmless play. That breaks the psychological contract in the room. People snap into disgust, fear, anger. Chasing shock value is not a crime, but turning humanity's lowest point into a punchline is barbaric entertainment. A Nazi symbol marks a real industrial-scale genocide that is still alive in the memory of living families. So when people kick you out, it's not oversensitive outrage. That is society's immune system doing its job. You can dress as a Satan. That's fine. Satan is a theological symbol. In pop culture, he functions as fictional villain. Movies, metal bands, cartoons, whatever. So, a Satan costume is read as symbolic evil, not documented mass murder. It doesn't carry a real-world victim history the way a Nazi uniform does. It also brings to mind 2005, when a 20-year-old Prince Harry wore a Nazi uniform to a private party and got photographed. The Sun put it on the front page, Harry the Nazi. The reaction was explosive and unanimous, from Jewish groups to politicians to the press. Harry issued a public apology and was later sent to visit Auschwitz as part of corrective education. That episode showed something simple. There are actions so far beyond the boundary that even a prince has no protection. So, why doesn't a Mao costume trigger the same kind of explosion? You might get filmed, shouted at, or dragged online, but rarely eviction, police, or chaos. Come on, he indirectly killed tens of millions of people, multiples more than the Nazis. Is that the moral double stand? No, it's two structural differences. First, the memory is not equally alive. Nazi atrocities have living descendants inside Western societies. Jews, Poles, Eastern Europeans, families with direct loss still present in the room. Mao-era victims and their descendants are mostly inside China, not embedded in Western daily life. Sensitivity maps to who is physically present, not to the abstract body count. The second reason is that one is the legally settled fact, the other is still historically contested. The Holocaust is a legally affirmed genocide with no academic dispute over intent or responsibility. Deaths under Mao, famine, purges, political campaigns have massive disagreement over attribution, intent, and classification. Not because it didn't happen, but because the nature of responsibility is not a closed case in international law. That's why a Nazi uniform detonates a room, but a Mao uniform usually doesn't. Not because the world is hypocritical, but because law, memory, and the living witness pool are not symmetrical. That's the theory. Now, the practical. So, what's the real rule for the Halloween taboos? Legally, almost anything flies. Socially, certain costumes are high-risk symbols you should avoid. 3 types are especially radioactive. Symbols tied to hate crimes or mass atrocities. Nazi uniforms, genocide imagery, KKK robes, blackface, slave owner cosplay, etc. Characters from ongoing trauma, not history. School shooters, 911 hijackers, ISIS fighters, real-world mass killers. And then there's this woman proudly showing off a Halloween costume that marks the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I can only pray for their souls. Costumes that turn oppressed groups into props. Native American regalia as party wear. Hijab as a joke. Mental patient or disabled bodies as caricature. All of that is using someone's real suffering as entertainment. Prince Harry's party in 2005 had a native and colonial theme. How do you turn real histories of conquest and displacement into decor, as if those traumas were just aesthetic mood board? So the real question is not, can you wear it? It's, are you turning a real collective tragedy into a party joke? It's a basic rule of a civilized society. Some symbols are not characters, they're wounds. And when a wound hasn't healed, sticking your finger into it is not edgy, it's pathological. If you see someone in a hateful or triggering costume, here's what to do, step by step. If it happens in a private space, a bar, club, house party, or campus event, etc., you don't argue, you don't touch. Private venues have the right to remove people. You don't need to play police. You simply tell the staff or the host, there's a hate symbol involved. Can you get the security, please? Once the venue intervenes, you don't pile on. Because in a private space, problems are resolved by the venue, not by mob police. If it happens in a public space, a street, subway, mall, plaza, etc., Public space had a wider legal tolerance. If you throw the first punch, you become the problem. What you can do is record, film the person, the context, the behavior. Useful evidence is more powerful than winning an argument. Also, stop others from using violence. You can say, "Don't hit him. That protects him, not us." The moment violence starts, the offender turns into the victim in the narrative. I genuinely hope none of you will ever need to use any of this in real life. Happy Halloween!